Hello class, this is Vanitas, Symbolic Still Lifes. So a still life is a painting or drawing of an arrangement of non-living things, and sometimes these are just decorative or they serve as a demonstration of how well an artist can create textures and realism. Other times they have more meaning. So on the right here you see a still life, and look closely at it and notice some of the objects in there and think about why they might be there. Some things are just, you might think they're just decorative, like the seashells and the coral and the book. But then if you look a little closer, there's some things that may not make some sense. There's a tipped over candle that's snuffed out. There's a skull that you see the jawbone is disarticulated from the top part. And then over here on the little statues, you have this little guy holding a pipe and there's bubbles up there in the air. Now everything here means something, and we're going to be talking about that. What you just saw was a Vanitas. It's a still life arrangement that has hidden symbolic meanings. They became really popular in the 16th and 17th century Netherlands. That was during the Reformation, when people stopped making illustrations of religious subjects and instead used still lives to kind of teach things about life and death and the 7 deadly sins, the 7 cardinal virtues, morals, rules, things of that nature. So every item and color in the Vanitas symbolized something. And if you look at this one, there is a book and a spilled, tipped over kind of a vase. You have some music. You have another skull. You have part of a bone. There's a pocket watch, some eyeglasses, all sorts of things. So the characteristics of a Vanitas: they all use chiaroscuro to create drama because these are very dramatic paintings. Lots of things were included. The one that is here on the example for this page is one of the more simpler ones. Usually they're really cluttered. Lots of different objects. Everything was as realistic as possible, as real as the artist could make it look, and everything had a meaning. And again, in here you see again some of the common symbols. There's a skull, there's sheet music, there's books, there's the candle, there's the little bell tower that has a clock on it, there's a newspaper, there's some dice, okay? Some of these things would represent good things, some of these things might represent bad things. So we're going to look at some of the common symbols. The skull was almost always included, or bones at the very least, and that represented death. It was a reminder that people don't last forever. Books represented knowledge, and with the context of, well, people might not last forever, learning does. And what you write, what you learn, what you create, that lasts. The flower represented beauty, but all of the flowers in Vanitas still lives and in still lives are cut flowers. That means they're beautiful, but they're dead. So because in this case the flower is a freshly cut rose, it's probably a painting that's about a young female person and a reminder that beauty is temporary. There's a glass of liquid, and this is often seen, and it kind of is showing the attitude that the person has towards life. You've heard the expression, is your glass half full or half empty? If it's half full, you're optimistic. You're kind of a positive person. If it's half empty, you're pessimistic. You kind of view things negatively. In previous examples, you saw that the glass was tipped over. So that would be somebody who is more of a negative person. In this case, the glass is standing upright and it still has liquid in it and it's half full. So the person would be positive. The papers that are down below, and this would include music, are the words and actions that we leave behind us, the memory, our connections to others. There's a compass, which is this thing, and that's the direction that your life takes. What do you do? Where do you move it? It could also refer to like regular directions as well. Whoops. And then there is the crown of weeds on the skull, and that's a religious reference to the crown of thorns, about being religious and faithful and self-sacrificing. So overall, this Vanitas tells a story about probably a memorial to a young, beautiful woman who had a good, positive attitude, who was religious and faithful and connected to people and did good things in their life. So here are some traditional examples. On the left, you have one that does not have a skull in it. It's much more rare to find one that does not have the skull itself. Here it's in reference to the sin of pride and greed. And you see a lot of things like there's a crown, there's a lot of jewelry, there's a lot of material goods. And that is all things that pass away. You can't take those with you. On the right, you have a much more traditional Vanitas. Again, you have the skull. The fruits, when you had fruits instead of flowers, it usually was a reference towards being made for a man. That's supported by the weapon, the pistol. Again, there's music, there's paper, there's not books here though. So this was probably not somebody who had a lot of education. Instead, they seem to be more of a man of action maybe. There is a book there. Okay, I might be wrong. Sometimes it's hard to see things. There's some shells, all sorts of stuff. Modern Vanitas are a little different. They can have the same themes, or they can be centered around a current issue, and you'll see some examples of that. And they can also be memorial paintings where everything relates to a specific person and their life. So this is a modern Vanitas, and instead of a skull and some other creepy things, you have a lot of electrical appliances that are kitchen appliances. There's a blender and a KitchenAid mixer, a coffee press, a percolator press, a meat thermometer. So this might be in reference to somebody who cooked. It could also be in reference to just outdated appliances, things that were once really highly valued but now have been supplanted. And then you also have some spectacles, eyeglasses, and a lemon. On the left, we have outdated appliances again, and this actually is a memorial for those appliances. Some of which are still around, like the desk lamp, but the analog clock, most people have digital clocks now. That's an old land camera instead of a digital camera. The big box is a radio. That's a telephone. Irons are still around. The keypad calculator, things like that. And then on the right is a Vanitas that's about a specific person, and it includes some of the things that they like. So your assignment for this are symbols and meanings. This is a painting by Audrey Flack. It's a memorial Vanitas for Marilyn Monroe. And if you recognize this painting, it's because it was one of the very first artworks that you wrote about in class. I think it was the first one for the I Spy activity, where you had to describe one part of the art. And what you're going to do, it's larger on the next slide, is you're going to look closely at the painting. If you're not familiar with who Marilyn Monroe was, I have a wiki link, read about her. Basically, she was a famous actress from a long time ago. Open the Word document, and I have listed in the Word document symbols and colors. Think about what they might mean, okay? Both things that I might have talked about here, and then things that you might have a meaning for. So some of the things that are listed on there is the candle and the lipstick. There's perfume bottles. There's mirrors, several of them. The pocket watch, the fruit, things of that nature. Okay? That's your assignment.